Okay. So with me today, I've got one of my colleagues, captain of the Utah Royals, double Olympic gold medalist, World Cup winner, NWSL champion, double NWSL champion, and Pushkas Award nominee,
Mm.
Amy Rodriguez. Hey, Rod, welcome.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me.
That's great. It's great to have you on, actually, because I've been wanting to get sort of more players on as well. Um, but A-Rod, well, what an honour this is. The captain of Utah Royals, and we've certainly had an up and down season. What's occurring with you at the moment?
Yeah, well, you and I got to experience 2020 together at the Utah Royals, and we obviously had quite the roller coaster. First and foremost, the start of our season beginning and then shutting down because of coronavirus. A lot of in-home workouts, no team interaction. Everything through Zoom and a screen, which is impossible to do in professional sports. But we made the most of it, and credit to you, actually. We were able to stay in shape and fit and ready for when our actual season began, which of course was a shortened, unusual kind of season, but it worked out okay. I think we're all, recovering and recouping from such a tough year, but hopeful that 2021 will look a lot better.
Yeah, let's hope. I think it was incredibly interesting. I've spoken on these chats before with previous guests how privileged I am to work with, players of such caliber and have achieved so much in their careers. It's just every day is just, you think, wow, even your accolades there, and we go, these players have achieved so much. But that period between maybe March and May, the uncertainty was incredible. And obviously you're a mother of two great young boys who have sort of morphed themselves as my assistants on the pitch, Luke and Ryan. That must have been difficult for you as well, during that period and all that uncertainty and with the two boys.
Yeah, uncertainty always is an uneasy feeling for me. I'm quite the planner, quite the organizer. As a mom, as a professional athlete, I like to have everything lined up and ready to go, and know what my goals are, know how to obtain them, those sort of things. And with the uncertainty of 2021 or 2020, excuse me, it proved to be very difficult in my life, but I just stayed the course. Everybody had to go through it. Everybody's situation was pretty bad, and some worse than others. And I can't complain too much. I did, escape coronavirus in some aspect, staying safe and healthy, and obviously protecting my two little kids was of the most importance.
Yeah. I miss having the boys around. We've got a couple of little secrets, me and the boys, that involves sweets for training, but we'll keep that quiet. So for you, Amy, go back to when you started in soccer. What was it? What sparked your interest in the game?
I started about age 5. I don't remember much in the beginning, but my mom always used to tell me that, back then we played boys and girls together. There was no female only leagues at 5 years old. So I played with the boys, and my mom used to always tell me that I would outrun all the kids, including the boys. And I just had a knack for the goal, and I was always running around, very aggressive on the field. She just told me that, she felt like soccer was my passion, and soccer was what I was going to be doing as I grew up. And here I am now.
That's brilliant. When did you start to think you were a bit special?
I never really thought too much of it. I stayed the course, and I do that in a lot of areas in my life. I have my nose down. I work hard. And I would say that I got quite a bit of attention for my soccer playing abilities around 15 and 16 years old. I would say that's kind of when it sparked, but I I just stayed the course, like I said, and even throughout my whole career, you know, getting called up with the national team, playing in Olympics and World Cups, I was always striving for more. And I think that was probably one of the factors in why I've created such a long lasting career. I've just always wanted to push for more and more. And, you know, never really settled. So here's to several more years of hopefully being pushing my way to the top, and hopefully keep playing for sure.
Yeah, interesting. I guess actually, one question for you, which most people might not know watching this: what age did you make your US debut, women's national team debut?
My first call up for the senior team was at 17. I was a senior in high school, and it was quite a shock because I had just played for our U19s and our U16s almost all within the same year. I feel like I climbed the ladder fairly quickly into the senior team. So I was left pretty intimidated and pretty nervous. But, you know, back then, this was back in 2005, the team opened, you know, or welcomed me with open arms. And I did my best and made enough of a mark on the coaching staff that they continued to keep asking me back.
Wow. And then 3 years later, you were in Beijing.
Yeah, I got to go to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. That was my first major tournament, playing for Team USA. And I think that's where, you know, I just had a kickoff of my career and really haven't looked back since.
Yeah. And then London 2012, where my family are from over there in London. And, you know, that for me personally, like my dad is from the East End of London. So it was a huge thing for him, 2012. I regret not actually going to any of the events. I didn't get to go, but I know my dad went and my sister as well. My sisters went to it, but I regret not actually going. What was that like, 2012?
2012 Olympics were unbelievable, and it actually made me fall in love with England so much more than I already had. I had been there a few times, traveling and playing soccer there, but never had spent that long of time there. So we really got to familiarize ourselves with the country. I absolutely loved London, just so beautiful. And of course we won gold. So that is just the cherry on top of all of it. And all in all, it was a great experience.
Incredible. Yeah, London's not a bad city. It's probably dark and wet at the moment, and obviously they're in a lockdown over there as well. So it's probably not the best of times. But there's something special actually around about Christmas in London, and interesting. Yeah, there's something about it. I guess it's quite an old city. So obviously, as a top level athlete, being nominated for the Pushkas Award. What exactly was going through your mind when you went on that little run?
I couldn't really believe it, actually. So the goal which you're talking about, I remember receiving the ball, maybe off a throw-in or something, far back, like maybe around the halfway line. And I just kind of started dribbling, and I realized I was kind of on my own. I didn't have really a lot of teammates in sight. So I just kept pushing, dribbling inward. And then when I finally felt like the defense converged, I was like, I'm going to just take this shot and, you know, if anything, maybe rebound or something. And it went in, and it kind of like curled out and bent itself in upper corner. And I just remember feeling shocked and excited though, because I think it was the goal that put us up ahead. So very excited about that, and really shocked that, you know, the world recognized that as one of the top 10 goals of the year.
Yeah, it was actually, I remember it because it was probably about 3 weeks before I had joined the club, but I couldn't be here because there was obviously visa issues to get those sorted. But I remember watching it, and because obviously I was 7 hours ahead there in the UK, and I was getting up in the morning going, wow. And then I saw this, I was like, if this is the caliber of player that I'm going to work with, I was like, wow, like, you know, showing everyone, I was like, look at this. But an incredible achievement as well. And I don't think, I mean, I've watched the goal back quite a few times, and I don't think you get tired of watching it. It's like, this is incredible. Well, two things really, actually. You worked obviously closely to Dawn Scott, who's obviously now left US Soccer and is now with the FA in England. So how have you seen the women's game develop in the US, but also my area and Dawn's area of sports science? Because in the UK, we tend to think that sports science is a little bit newer in the US. So how have you seen, the women's leagues develop here in the US, but also applying sports science into that?
I had one of the great pleasures of working with Dawn Scott on the national team, like you said. And I think about when I started my journey on the national team to where it is now, I feel like the sports science side has just absolutely boomed. And it's been something that I've personally felt a great improvement. And one of the great reasons why our USA national team has continued to be better and better and better. I think we are on the front foot in the women's game as far as leading the way. We had people like Dawn Scott, like you mentioned. We've had the best facilities, the best resources. And I think those things that we have implemented in our training day in and day out, those are the reasons why the US remains so good from a sports science perspective. And, if you compare country to country, just the overall preparedness and fitness, strength, speed is just off the charts for the US team. And I think that is a great reasoning because of the sports science that we've had.
Yeah, people back in the UK probably don't understand that, with the US setup, all your players are all across the US, which is such a massive country. So logistically, and I probably had a bit of that during lockdown where you've got to manage people in different locations. With you guys being in different places at that time, and it sort of opened my eyes to the job that the staff at US Soccer do in progressing the national team players. And I remember talking to one of the coaches here about physicality and the US national team, and they were like, how much of an input does that have into their success? And the coach at the time, actually, it was Laura Harvey, said to me, well, they've won the World Cups. You can clearly see the physical advantage that the US have, and it's incredible the work that's been done. And I think the league, the NWSL, it gets better and better. There's a lot of investment in sort of sports science in that area to make it better, to support the players, and give you better means. It's great to see this evolution. How have you felt maybe over the years? How do you think the NWSL, because we're now in the 8th season, how do you think that's progressed over the years?
What I've really loved is that our national team kind of coincides with the NWSL as far as sports science. There's definitely communication and a sense of collaboration in making sure all the players, national team or not, are prepared and fully equipped to train and play a season. And I think that the NWSL has kind of like, I don't want to say rode on the coattails of the national team and the sports science, but we've been able to experience national team level sports science. And that's exactly what we need as female professional athletes in one of the best women's soccer leagues in the world. We need to have that level of sports science. And I've been fortunate to benefit greatly from that, especially with, having you on our squad. I think that was a great addition for us as far as sports science goes, because, in the past, I've been on teams where we didn't have necessarily the level of sports science that we needed. And I can say, very confidently that I've benefited greatly.
No, that's brilliant, and thanks for your kind words. And I'll give you the $20 afterwards for that. No, I mean, like when we go back in the tournament, I think the Challenge Cup tournament, we had a game every 3 days. I think we may have been one of the only teams that did that. So from things like recovery in the pool sessions and different nutritional interventions we had to try and make, the turnaround was just, it was so quick. I've never experienced anything like it. It was, play, recover, play. And credit to all of you guys that that played every game and were involved. And it was just, how did you feel? Obviously in the tournament, we weren't as successful. I think that's fair to say, but how did you find that as a professional athlete, those really quick turnarounds? Because that's probably more than what you would get in a World Cup or an Olympics.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to play in 2 World Cups and 2 Olympics, and I will say that the preparation for those is much different than in the preparation for a normal season, where you have 24 games spread along, maybe eight or so months. This tournament, this summer, Challenge Cup in the NWSL, similar to a World Cup or an Olympics tournament. You've got that turnover, and it's within 3 days that you're playing again. And I will say that the teams that can handle the recovery periods the best usually come out as champions. And I'm not sure what the recovery schedule and situation looked like for the Houston Dash, who ended up being the champion. But I will say that from a output standpoint, our team felt physically prepared to handle the 5 games over I think was it 3 weeks or was it 2 weeks?
2.5, I think. Yeah.
I felt like our team, handled it well. Our problem wasn't necessarily recovery and fitness. Our issue was more on the soccer side, but the best teams in the world figure out a way to turn over and play games every 3 days and have their bodies perform at the highest level possible.
And that's the thing, like for me personally, is the physical preparation of sports scientist, or whatever name I've got, it actually presents a headache. Okay, so how are we going to monitor these players the best way and keep them efficient and effective on that pitch? Which was, I think you've got to sit down and weigh up all the different protocols and interventions that you could make, and then try and work out what's best for the players, what's best for you guys, what are you used to. I mean, I think, there's certain things that we implemented to help you guys recover. But it was certainly a case of, don't just put things in there for the sake of putting things in there, because we had to make sure that you guys were prepared, but also weren't disturbed as much in your own recovery. Because, I think we have to respect the athlete first, and everybody has different ways and means, but provide you with some form of framework of, what we thought would be best for you. And it was interesting. It was challenging for everyone. And obviously with COVID and being tested after every game and everything we had to go through in that, it was a challenging time. So one question, if you're in season here in Utah and you've got the boys with you, what does a typical day look like for A-Rod?
Oh, it's crazy. So my boys are 4 and 7, and they're pretty active. They love to be outside and stuff. So a typical day for me in Utah as a professional athlete mom, we wake up, we have breakfast, we go to the stadium where I will have training. This year was a little different. I couldn't hire a babysitter or send them to a daycare because of coronavirus. So I ended up bringing the kids out to the field with me, setting them on the sidelines, giving them books, toys, iPads, stuff to keep them busy while I trained. And then after my about hour and a half training, jump all in the car, and I'll usually take the kids, lunch, and then off to a park or out somewhere where they can go play a scooter ride, climbing on rocks, just like really anything that gives out their energy. Because I've just, spent my energy out at the soccer field. It's hard for me then to keep going. So for me personally, it's a little bit of a busy, hectic day, just because I'm trying to do my job and be a mom at the same time, and take care of everybody's needs. But somehow we find a way to make it work.
I miss having my little helpers around. No, they're not. I miss having them about.
Don't help me.
That's because I've trained them well. Their iPads are not hooked up to Cartoon Network; they're hooked up to Stat Sports. You just don't realise that. No, I do. I miss having them about, and they're great fun when they're here, and all the players and staff, we all embrace them when they're here, and it's we've had some funny times. I won't go into those. We've had some funny times with the boys, but no, it's unique really for you, and obviously there's different influence outside of your job in soccer that can influence you on day to day, but it's just such a different environment. I'm laughing because I'm just thinking of the boys in the summer and the iPads, and then was it the sort of tent that you had blew away? It was brilliant.
Some of those summer trainings were so hot. You got to keep the kids covered, and then they're hungry and they're fighting on the sideline while I'm trying to train. It's definitely a balancing act.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, you do a great job, and it's some. I won't go into the details on this, but some of the things that the boys just make me laugh so much.
Yeah.
So, what would you say for you? Let's talk maybe at the start of the season. Are you the type of player that sits down and lines out your goals? And then throughout the season, so if you were to come to me and say, look, I want this, where do you see the value of feedback from a sports scientist or a coach? How often do you think they should be feeding back, and how much value do you place on that as a player?
I feel like a lot of my work has to be done in the off season, because the point of season is to be physically ready to play in games. So for me personally, I like to do, a lot of my work in preseason and before the season begins, because that's going to prepare me then to when I hit the grass, I am focusing on soccer. I'm focusing on scoring goals. I'm focusing on how I want to play as a player. I realize too, it's hard to stay at the tip top of your game all year round. So, your body takes breaks and needs that time to recover. And mentally too, I think we just spoke about how wearing this year was, you need the mental break a little bit, to step away. So I think that's important. But for me, in conversations that I've had with you, in conversations that I've had with other sports scientists, like I usually have a goal in mind. And for me personally, like I've always been known and have always been one of the faster players on my teams. And that's something that keeps me going. Like I continually want to be hitting, the top speeds on my team. I continually want to be, at the top of the list for sprinters, because that is my game. And if I can continue that, then that is going to only help me out on the field when I'm playing in the game. So for me going into this next season, I think that will be a similar goal of mine. A lot of speed training leading up to the season, constantly working on my strength. I actually, I tore my ACL back in 2017, and even still to this day can feel and see some discrepancy with my leg strength from my left to my right. So that's always been a goal of mine, constantly trying to keep that strength up, because that's going to also help me with injury prevention going forward as well. So yeah, and credit to you. I think you've always been open for communication and personal goals that I may have that I come to you with. You're always open to helping me with those, as well as implementing your own goals for us individuals.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing in a team sport, because we've got 11 on the pitch in a team, but it's 11 individuals, and positionally, wing backs are remarkably different in their outputs and what they do compared to you. A centre mid is completely different. Then you've got attacking
Right.
centre mids and defensive centre mids. So it presents it's a nice problem to have, but I think it becomes realistic when you look at players' data contextually, and you have to decide, well, that's normally their game. That's how they're built, and that's how they play the game. And I certainly know your game's built on speed and strength, and we've had some great conversations about that. And I appreciate that from the players when they come and say, look, this is where I want to be. And we try and find some way of getting there. I just think that feedback is vital in all areas. I think we've got better at feeding back to you guys and the GPS data and what it means, because it's too easy to just give you a sheet and say, go away and look at that. But it's still an area I think that we need to improve on as sports scientists, and how we're going to feed that back to players and make that show you those, I'll give you something tangible. I think, I mean, it's probably been the strangest season that we've all been through, but I think for you as the captain, your first year as the captain of the Royals, obviously that brought on a lot of added responsibilities. And how did you find that as captain, in the year that probably the toughest year that we'll ever have?
Yeah. Definitely felt like I was like fed to the sharks. It was a hard situation to jump into, but I gladly did it. I obviously care so much about the club. I care about the players on our team. So I was happy to lead us. I just wish that the pathway wasn't so bumpy this year. We had coaching changes, schedule changes, so many constraints and so many guidelines that we had to follow, and ownership changes. I think that the problems kept piling on, and it was definitely a hard time to lead because I had never seen and never been a part of a team where this had happened. So I didn't even know where to pull from. Our previous captain, Becky Sauerbrunn, someone who I admire greatly and look up to, I was joking with her. I go, you had to leave this year, and leave. But all in all, it was great. And I think our team handled it so well. Adversity does make you stronger. And I think that we did get stronger because of this. And I'm looking forward to 2021 being hopefully a lot smoother.
Yeah. I think one thing that we probably all learn actually is the difference between reacting and responding. Because there were a lot of situations that we were put into where it's very easy to react and very easy to do something, but actually, to the credit of all the players and staff that were here, it became more a thing of, okay, how am I going to respond to this, as opposed to just making a reaction. It was certainly, and we don't need to go into the details, but it was certainly unique. There was difficult times. There was, as you've touched on most of those, it was incredible what everybody went through, and the players were certainly always in my forethoughts, because I'm lucky I spend probably more time with you than anyone else, and the players' welfare is always in the back of your mind. How are people thinking about what's going on? How is this affecting them? So in some essence, that human element is arguably the most important thing, I think, than anything else. It's just so important. I think for Amy Rodriguez, what are the goals? What do you see? Where do you see the future? Where do you see yourself going? Any plans that you've made? What do you think? If I was to say to you, what do you want to achieve out of anything? Pick anything. Doesn't even have to be soccer related. But if you could think of anything that would be the icing on the top of the cake, and you bear in mind you've achieved a hell of a lot, more than anybody can dream of, what would it be?
You're right. I have achieved a lot. And when I look back, I am super proud and fortunate to have had the history that I've had on the field, off the field, my family, gold medals, you name it. I said this earlier. I feel like I never really settle. I never really, have that feeling of being content. And I think that's because I'm just a go-getter at heart. And so this year and moving forward, I feel like I'm just going to keep pushing along. I absolutely love the game and want to continue playing. I haven't, taken my eyes off of the 2021 Olympics or potentially getting a call into the national team. I feel like that's my short-term goal right now, just to keep pushing and vying for a spot there. But it's tough to break into, and especially at my age when you've had a long career and I've already achieved plenty. Why do I need to go for more? I'm not sure, but I want to, and I'm continuing to push towards that. And you won't stop me. You won't.
That's the good thing, though. Like when A-Rod has that A-Rod face on, there's no stopping her. And we joke about that, but when the eyes are just fixated, it's like, this is it. But I think I was listening, maybe it was Rio Ferdinand I was listening to, and he was talking about winning the Champions League at Man United. Within minutes, it was like, right, what's the next thing? Okay, we're playing so-and-so on Saturday. We've got to focus on that and, winning the league, right? We've got Champions League final. And I guess at the elite end, it never stops. I think if you stop and think, well, I've won the World Cup and I've won this, then, you could go the other way and not want to achieve much. And I think that's the one good thing about the US women's national team and the US, those players that have been in and around that, the drive is incredible, and like I say, I've been lucky to work with so many of you here just at the Royals. The drive to always achieve more is inspirational. You just want to be better every day. And it's great. I still pinch myself now. I go, even just reading out your accolades at the start, it's like, this is incredible. If I was to say to you though, this one comes up in every, podcast or interview here, but I think it's important. If I was to give you 3 non-negotiables, what would they be?
As far as what?
Let's say standards. So your 3, when you come into work every day, what are your 3 non-negotiables?
Gosh, that's tough, Andy. For me, I take practice pretty seriously, and I, even though I can't be goofy and I don't know, silly at times, when I'm practicing, when I'm working, like I am very intentional, and I don't like when, maybe like I'm going at a slow speed through the warm up. Like I want things to be very precise and on point. And I think that training like that only makes you better and only prepares you better for the actual games. So that would be a non-negotiable for me, whatever you want to title that. I'm not even sure. But showing up to be intentional and to work hard and no loss training sessions, because my time is very valuable, and I've learned that now after having kids and being a busy family mom. I don't want to go out there and waste my time. So definitely like getting after it and being intentional would be a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah, I think that it's great advice, really, because my career ended very, very early, and I sit back now and and sometimes during our games I'll sit on the bench and you think, God, I wish I was there. I was out there and I was playing, because a playing career is short. You have to make every day has to count. It has to, because the nature of the business, and then that's maybe another discussion, but you could play one season and then you may not have a club, and that's something that I think is always in it's the same with my role, actually. You may be out of a job at the end of any season, but I think just that drive to give it your best every day. And it's not that, look at what we've been through this season, or certainly you as players have been through this season. That's a difficult thing to get yourself up and motivated, because I guess it's easy from the outside for people to look in and go, oh yeah, but they just kick a ball about. And it's like, but there's a family life. There's things going on there. We had COVID, a lot of other organizational changes, and those things affect people. And ultimately they're likely to affect performance on the pitch and those kind of things. And it's been interesting. And I'm just, I'm glad to have you as our captain, because I always feel that I can come to you and say, look, this is what we want to do. We want to make this change. How do the players feel? What's your thoughts? And I think it's got to be a two-way thing. I'm sure I've done some things. You've gone, no way. Okay, let's leave that. We'll go back to the drawing board with that one. But having someone, for me, that's what the captain is. It's someone that I can go to and say, okay, this is what we need to do today, and this is our thoughts, and get your feedback from the players. I think that's invaluable, and I appreciate you doing that for me, but for the team, being that voice. The good thing is we've got a lot of voices in the team, and that's great. It's fantastic. So Well, well, what more can I say? I mean, I haven't seen you in about 3 weeks. Maybe, yeah, 3 weeks. I think maybe no.
It's gonna go by fast. I'll be there in just a couple short months, I'm sure.
I know the off season is just so long. It's but you guys do a great job, and you make my job easier. I just, we get through it and we get by, and you guys all have your ideas for the off season, and there's my bit of input. But I'm looking forward to having one. I was saying to one of the staff members here yesterday, I just miss everyone being about, and that's the one thing I don't think I'll get used to in the US is the long off seasons. So, what's the plans for today? What have you got planned today?
Well, I had to get up early, get my kids off to school. Then I did your workout. Hamstring rollouts kind of got me this morning. But yeah, doing good today. Today's Friday here, so I usually do pizza and movie night with the kids on Friday nights. So that'll be the plan for the family, and then the weekend. So
yeah. What's the film tonight?
I don't know. I usually let them pick something rated G.
It's all right. I'll give Luke and Ryan a little tip on what to. It'll be the 2012 Olympic game versus Canada.
Sports Science videos. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, no, don't. I've got a load of those from my studying at the moment. Trust me. They're great for sending you to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Amy, look, this has been brilliant, and I thank you very much for your time. I know you're busy and busy being a mum and everything else that you've got going on at the moment. So, thanks very much for coming on.
You're so welcome, Andy. Great to see you.
Great to see you.